Dr. Swank will be remembered by many, but few will remember him with more gratitude than his many MS patients. How many of you have been touched by Dr. Swank as a doctor? I was just curious. Many, yes. So today, Tom Ryan and George Schneider have joined us from Philadelphia, which is a huge honor. Both were patients of Dr. Swank's for many years and would like to share a few thoughts about him. And I'd like to introduce Tom first and then George. Thank you.
Thank you. Get a little stiff after I sit for a while. It's not the issue, it's the disc. Okay. This is a real honor to be able to share memories about a guy who has significantly changed your life. My first contact with Roy was a phone call. I was referred to Roy by a patient who had been on diet, I think, since 1950. Her name was Lee Cook in Denver. And after talking to Lee, I knew I didn't have to talk to Roy. So she gave me his phone number. And most of the times when you call the doctor's office, you get a receptionist, you get a secretary, and you might talk to him, and if you do talk to him, you might see him in about 6 months. I remember the phone call in 1977. I know I spoke to Barbara Dugan, and I immediately am talking to Roy. So we had a great conversation, and his comment to me was, Tom, he said, you sound pretty good. He said, you have to realize that we're batting about 95% to leave you in that condition. And when can we see you? So you have to understand that this is a comment that on the East Coast in 1977 was very positive as opposed to the neurologists, Johnny Rainmakers that we've all been seeing. They didn't have much optimism. So I remember my first meeting with Roy, it was August 17th of 77. And I can see him now over his desk. He said, Tom, there's 3 things that'll kill you. He said, you break the diet, agitation, and nervousness. So I said, I don't think the diet's going to be a problem, but we're all a little nervous, and it's easily agitated, so you're going to have to help me with drugs. After that, I met with Barbara, and she was a lifesaver. We were on the phone all the time with Barbara. Can I eat this? Can I do that? You know, what am I supposed to do? And when I left, I said to Roy, do you think they'll ever find a cure? And he looked at me and he said, we've got the closest thing to it right now. So I left Portland on cloud 9. To me, the Red Sea had parted and the party began. My next meeting with Roy was over the phone. I had some medical issues, I had some surgery, and as a patient, you're told that in the event of surgery, in order to calm your body, you should have plasma. Or should have a transfusion. Now, in Philadelphia, that's an unorthodox procedure after surgery. So Roy was very diligent about it. My wife had to find a neurologist who would okay this. So it took quite a while, and I think that the neurologist would rather just give me the blood than put up with my wife anymore. So I call that's the diligent bullheadedness of Roy and my wife. Later on the phone, my wife was called the gutsy lady by Roy. So, the last great memory that I have of Roy is what I call the playful Roy. I'm standing outside the Benson Hotel, waiting for him to pick us up and pick me up for dinner. It's a quiet night, it's about 6 o'clock, and I hear this rumbling noise. And it sounds like, there's a drag race somewhere. And it gets louder and louder. And as my eye hits the left eye hits the corner, I see a bronze gold Maserati. Right, now, I have no idea that this man has this car. I wonder, who is this? I mean, you can see this in New York City, but in Portland, a bronze Maserati, come on. So I'm wondering, who has this car? So the door opens, and Roy's sitting there like a Cheshire cat and saying, let's go to dinner. Well, he Hotel. And the reason he did was because not only was the food nice and it was a nice setting, but I later realized it's 50 miles north, and there was a chance for him to open up the car. So Barbara and I looked at each other as we looked at the speedometer, and each of us weren't going to say, Doctor, we want to be alive at the end of this trip. And one of my friends here bought him a fuzzbuster. So put it together, a Maserati and a fuzzbuster, right? I mean, it's not, it's a recipe to kill yourself. But anyway, so he loved the car. I heard that he did a lot of great things with the car. He'd drive over steps, he'd drive on needle strips. He had no concept of safety. But Roy truly understood the deepest meaning of being a physician. And for me, he made every day Christmas. And every night when I put my head on the pillow, he made it Thanksgiving. And he embodies a quote from Leo Rossman that I love. And it says, "The purpose of life is to count, to matter, to stand for something, to have it make a difference that you lived at all." And I think Roy fulfilled that. Thank you.